And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, MotleyRice.com. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com for your new year ride. StokesVW.com today. Find us at JBandGoldwaterShow.com and across social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines are open and active already. Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to see all of you. We've been gone since, I think, December 21st or so, 22nd, somewhere in there, and spending time with our families and hanging out with Santa Claus and celebrating the 2022 year. And now we get to enjoy it with all of you. So it's great to see everybody. There's obviously been a lot of football being played, a great 2-week span for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Certainly going to talk a lot about that today. Wes Mitchell will join us at 12:30. They also, Gamecock Central does have an exclusive interview up through the Garnet Trust, which is also theirs, with Spencer Rattler, the quarterback of the future, at least one of them, at South Carolina. But we'll be talking about a different quarterback coming up here in just a little bit. Gene Sapakoff also going to join us today in the 1 o'clock hour. Got plenty to get to with him. A perfect bowl season for the Palmetto State, amongst other things. I got some hoops. We'll talk about Antonio Brown, all of the great bowl season games. Wow, it's been special. The Rose Bowl was awesome, and so many other ones. But with all that being said, good afternoon, Darren Goldwater.
Happy New Year. Rocking a new hat here, courtesy of Paul Nelson, old school throwback. If you want to go Senators, we're just going to pretend the Expos didn't exist and the Nationals were just gone for a while, and throwing back to the Senators, which is a completely different franchise. But I like the hat, so I'm rocking the hat, and I'm rocking some really tired eyes because I don't think anybody in this house, and I think a lot of people in the area are the same way, got any sleep last night. And even still, the house is rattling at times still, but hopefully some of this wind is about to be out of here.
Yeah, we didn't at all. I had gone upstairs to go to bed. I was watched the final episode of Yellowstone, and then I was kind of laying around watching some football and stuff, and then I went upstairs, and I don't know, it's probably that we bought a different brand of dog food, and I think it's upset my oldest dog's stomach. And so between 11 and 6 a.m. last night, I ended up coming downstairs and sleeping downstairs because I had to let him out like 5 different times. In addition to all the wind and everything, it woke our kids up. My wife brought them into bed, and then they couldn't sleep because it was too loud in the room, so she took them back in there, and then they didn't want to go to sleep without somebody in there, so she slept on the floor. Yeah, it's a disaster.
Yeah, on top of the wind, things were slamming around. We have a new trampoline in the back. It lifted up at some point, and some of the legs came off. Our neighbor across the street had his Christmas tree out, on the curb for pickup. That's under the tree in our yard as of about 30 minutes ago. There's stuff all over the place. Another neighbor has a trampoline. It blew over their fence. It's been a night, man. It's been a night. Yeah. But here's the good news. Soon it's going to be done, and then it's going to be cooler. So we're good. We're good. We're ready for 2022 now.
Yeah, 2022. This is it's amazing that it's here. My number in baseball was 22. I wore that after my dad. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a special year in our household. Certainly, all of you that are being blown around by the wind, hopefully it calms down in a second. Hold on just a second. Craig, did I miss? I've been waiting for Ozark to come out for what, 2+ years? So the final season? It is the final season, right?
I think, and it is sometime in January, I believe. Craig could probably help us out here, but I know it's coming. I just don't know how soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, I'm hooked on 1883 right now to get me through for a little while.
Haven't tried it yet. Love Yellowstone, but I'm an episode behind. I watched last week's last night, so I didn't watch last night's last night.
Okay. All right. So, you haven't watched the final episode of this final season of Yellowstone. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Yeah. So you got to get caught up there. 1883 is it's special. You have to, in my opinion, and I know everybody wants to get to sports, right? We're going to get there. But when it comes to Westerns and telling the history of Western expansion and things like that, you have to get it right. You got to get it right, and it has to be entertaining. And they nailed it. I mean, they just nailed it. So you'll enjoy it. I mean, it's hard to not. I mean, and all the Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, I feel like they should have been acting their whole lives. It's amazing. They're amazing. In addition to Sam, what's his name?
Don't know.
Oh, his name's escaped me, but it doesn't matter.
It's the holdover character from Yellowstone, right?
No. He has been in like literally everything. Sam, somebody help me out here. Craig, am I paying for Paramount Plus? Sam Elliott. There you go. Thank you, Walter. Am I paying for Paramount Plus? I don't have a problem paying for Paramount Plus, but I'm not, because I have a subscription to the Big Spur, and with the Big Spur, you get a free Paramount Plus subscription.
Perfect.
So
it's on regular. It's on regular Paramount. I'm getting it through YouTube TV right now.
Yes, but only temporarily.
Yeah, and the old seasons are not.
So 1883 will only be, as of now, available on regular television for like the first few episodes, and then it will go away exclusively to digital. So I'll help you out there, Darren. I'll send you some stuff behind the scenes.
Nice.
It is 12:08 here on this Monday afternoon. 4 years ago today, it was pouring snow in the Low Country. Not today, but certainly some cooler air is on the way. Wes Mitchell is also on the way. He'll be here in a little over 20 minutes on our program. We're going to get to plenty of South Carolina stuff, but I just kind of want to lead off today very, very broad-based when it comes to bowl season, because there's been a lot of good stuff to watch, and it is an all-SEC national championship, as we know, and as we probably all predicted, Georgia and Alabama. I thought Michigan had a chance, but boy, Georgia didn't let them up for air from the start of the game. They were smothering. That's the Georgia we've seen all year, and that's probably the Georgia we're going to see against Alabama. You're not going to see a blowout like you saw in the SEC championship game. I'm really looking forward to this coming up a week from today between the Dogs and the Tide. There is, by the way, a game tomorrow. That's LSU and Kansas State. If LSU wins, the SEC could even their bowl record at 6-6 after starting, I think it was 0-5.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, they have won every one of them except for Baylor beating up on Ole Miss the other night when Ole Miss lost their quarterback. Matt Corral. And that's been a major talking point, Darren, about whether he should or shouldn't have played. You saw instantly, and you probably knew this was going to happen. This is why players opt out, and this, that, and the other. It is why players opt out. There's exactly why a lot of players opt out. But he chose to play, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. He took a chance, and it happened. I saw Josh Pate tweet something a couple of nights ago. You probably saw it. I know you follow him pretty closely on Twitter. I don't think why do we really care? I mean, these players have earned the right to make whatever decision they want to. So if they want to play, let them play. If they want to opt out, they can opt out. It's on them. It's not on me. I don't care.
That's what I've been saying for weeks, months. I mean, really going, I guess, a couple of years now. You want to opt out? Go for it, man. Personally, I've made it pretty clear here. If you have a pro career, if you have dollars sitting in front of you, if it's me and my choice at that point in a bowl game that for me doesn't matter, I don't understand why you would play. But that's me. So I understand why Matt Corral wanted to play. I saw his logic behind it. I saw what Robert Griffin said when Griffin won the Heisman at Baylor. The reason he played in that bowl game then, in his words, was because they hadn't won a bowl game in like 19 years or something at Baylor, and there was something left to be done for the team. If you're not in that position or don't feel that way, fine. And I really get irked by the it's me or we comparison type thing, because it's not that simple. If I've been with this group of dudes for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and we're tight, then we're more than just a team, right? We're brothers, we're family. If I want, or you as a brother want to go pursue something else after putting everything out with us together for years, have at it, man. I'm going to support you in doing that too. So I don't think it's this we versus me mentality. But I've always kind of kept the same stance. If you want to opt out, man, opt out. I get it. And Corral's injury is a unfortunate reminder of why guys do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm with Clint. I hate the opt-out stuff. I mean, I'm a guy that would play. I could never not play. And when I say this seriously. No matter what was on the line, I can't not play. That's just me. I'm such a competitor in anything. And that's me. I mean, Sam Howell played against South Carolina, and he didn't get hurt, and he's going to be a first rounder. So you take a chance, and things happen sometimes. And but you have an opportunity now to be able to opt out, and so guys do it. I mean, when do I really care? I care when it affects my football team. This year, it didn't really affect South Carolina's football team. They picked up the pieces, moved on, and beat the crap out of North Carolina up in Charlotte. So it's I personally don't like it, but that doesn't mean that I have to sit here every day and tell everybody that they're wrong for supporting a kid for opting out, or telling a kid he's wrong for opting out. I don't like it, but it's not my decision. And I see Craig. He said, "Look, I'd tell my kid to opt out if he was a first rounder." I can't say that I wouldn't give the same advice to my son or daughter in their respective sport if there were millions and millions of dollars, life-changing dollars on the line. If there wasn't, then I would say, no, you need to go play. So, I don't know. I've never been in that situation. I personally, if it was me choosing to play or not play, I would always play. But that's what's great about America, right? We should all have a choice to make our own choice, and these guys are making it. Some are playing, some aren't.
And we've seen a lot that these opt-outs, in many instances, the team that is there, they rally and they play hard. The theme, we talked about this one of the final shows before we took the break. The theme of bowl season started early and carried all the way through. I'll exclude the playoff 2 games from this conversation. The teams with more to play for, the teams with more to prove, they played better. It was true all bowl season long, right? I mean, you could see South Carolina wanted that game significantly more than North Carolina did. You could see it. I mean, there are example after example after example that are in there. And it wasn't just because the opt-outs, right? Ohio State had NFL dudes opt out all over the place, and yet they throw up 1 billion points in yards and rally to beat Utah. So the team that stays around, if there's something to prove, I felt Ohio State did. They had something to prove right there. Everyone's saying, these guys opted out. Well, look, these guys stayed together and might score on every possession next year and showed you that. So the guys who have more to prove, that's what this whole bowl season's been about.
Yeah, it's really hard to it's a neat little zinger you threw in there. It's really hard to look at Ohio State, even though Alabama and Georgia are in the national championship, and think that coming into the 2022 season, the Buckeyes aren't going to be preseason number 1. I mean, they're a remarkably talented football team with the front runner for next year's Heisman Trophy. Of course, Bryce Young's going to be going, hey, wait, I won it last year. I'm the front runner, right? not a lot of Heisman Trophies winners win it back to back. And this kid up in Columbus, Ohio is special. So that's for another day, certainly. That obviously that game stood out. The Rose Bowl game stood out, Darren. Kentucky battling back to kind of win a slugfest over Iowa. That was a fun game to watch the other night. Oklahoma State and Notre Dame was a really, really good football game with Oklahoma State scoring 23 points there in the second half of that one to win 37-35. So that was Marcus Freeman's first game as head coach of the Irish, and it's a loss, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, he kind of got thrown into the thick of it there. Notre Dame probably not going anywhere. Georgia pounded Michigan. Really no surprise there. Once again, the semifinals were nothing to write home about this year. And they have been a lot over the years. I don't think, though, that should make the case to expand or not expand the college football playoff. Like, we've seen, for anybody that's giving Cincinnati a hard time because they lost by 21 points to Alabama, group of five shouldn't be in there. Well, we've seen a lot of, Georgia just beat Michigan by 23. So there's no validity in that argument. But what we've seen a lot over the years in college football semifinals have been blowouts. And I don't know that means that there shouldn't be an expanded college football playoff. It's more about the process and trying to change the future landscape of the sport a little bit, so where you don't have the same 3 or 4 teams every year. If you're just looking for great games every year, it's impossible to predict that. Next year in a 14 playoff, we could have 2 1-point games. We don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know that it should be results oriented to have that conversation. It should just be more about the future health of the sport. Although with all that said, I still don't want to see bowl games dissipate.
It's hard. I think we're at a point right now where the discussion of how do we keep bowls relevant, it's gotta flip somewhere. That road has to diverge somewhere because they're not going to go away. We know they're not going away. They're viewed heavily on television. They are good television products, but the way the year is now, even when the playoffs expand, it's going to happen. The bowls that are not part of the playoff will still have the same viewpoint from outsiders, myself included, of, okay, this can matter to those it matters to, but in the grand scheme, it's a big exhibition game. So are you going to save them? Are you going to load up and take the family and spend hundreds of dollars to go somewhere and watch your team play? I told a number of people who were debating whether to go to a couple different games, like, I wouldn't. I'd sit on my couch because why go to that game right now? So the bowl games are going to stay. It's just going to be a different way of kind of accepting them, I think, and understanding that as a fan. Like, all right, we get another chance to watch. And the South Carolina game is a great example. There were folks who were upset the game was in Charlotte. There were upset folks for some of the guys who were opting out. But the players cared, and they put on a hell of a show out there. And the energy that you saw from Beamer and the players and the fan base who went rightfully so nuts after the win. That stuff is still there. It's just going to be a different way, I think, of accepting it and consuming it.
Yeah, I think where it's trending, there's always going to be, like, the Rose Bowl was one of my bucket list items. There's something special about it. Everybody says that. But there's always, I think where a lot of this is trending is teams that just aren't there yet, or that have kind of had a recovery type season, and they get into a bowl game with a chance to build some momentum towards the future. You saw that with South Carolina. You saw that in the Purdue-Tennessee game for both teams, although Tennessee got just robbed in overtime. But both Purdue and Tennessee are programs who are looking to continue to improve. It was a turnaround year for the Vols at 7-6. And Purdue won 9 games this year,
and their stud receiver who lit it up didn't play in that game. It's another example of a team with something to prove despite an opt-out.
And they scored 48 points.
Yeah.
Without him playing. Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of this is going. Look at Clemson. Clemson wins the game 20-13 over Iowa State. They had nobody opt out. Now, let's all remember here when we had somebody send me a text. Man, Clemson had nobody opt out. This isn't a shot at Clemson. Let's just remember that they've also had 11 transfers. Those are called permanent opt-outs, if you want to be technical. But that's happened everywhere. So
yeah,
they've had no.
That's not the same discussion.
No. Yeah. Like the way that it was getting phrased was, well, Clemson didn't have any players not playing in the game. I'm like, well, they have a lot of players not playing in the game. They have players who left the program, but they had nobody specifically opt out of the football.
Yeah, those are two different conversations. I mean,
yeah, exactly. That's my point.
Everywhere. Yeah. And
that's my point.
There. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wait, whoa. Hold on. Yeah, that's exactly my point. And you have the Tigers, who were very excited to play in the Cheez-It Bowl. Had a lot to prove. Hey, 10 wins. I mean, Coach Sweeney has done this for a long time at Clemson. He has found a way to dig deep into a special bag of tricks to find relevance in anything that he can. There's a lot of fans, I think, who maybe lost a little interest, if that makes sense, because they weren't in the playoff like Georgia and Alabama were and things of that nature. And Coach Sweeney, whoa, we have a chance to win 10 games for the 11th straight year. This has only happened 3 times in the history of the sport. He put it into great perspective, and all of a sudden people were really excited. The South Carolina thing, I think what you found there, Darren, was that the keyboard warriors are not the end-all be-all to anything in life, because it seemed overwhelmingly negative when they were first selected to play in the game. And South Carolina not only sold out their ticket allotment, they had to request more, and then they sold above and beyond that. So, you know, a lot of what you see in message boards and in Twitter and things like that, it's just not reality. It's just not true. There were like 30,000 people excited to go watch that team play up in Charlotte, and none of them gave a crap of what you saw on social media. So kudos to Clemson. Kudos to South Carolina, amongst many of the programs out there, for taking their bowl game seriously and going and having a wonderful time and winning ball games.
I thought it was almost surprising to me, in a sense, to see the comparison pictures. I'm sure everyone saw them on social media of Dabo winning the national championship in Clemson and his facial expression holding the national championship trophy compared to the facial expression and the happiness of holding a bowl of Cheez-Its and getting dumped with Cheez-Its, and how virtually identical they were, and how gratifying the win was for Sweeney and for the program. I thought, to me, that was at least a little eye-opening of, okay, but it speaks to what he's built at Clemson. It speaks to the foundation that is there, and the fact that the transfers, I mean, it's like everything else. It's addition by subtraction for the most part for the Tigers, just like most of the transfers that are in the transfer portal anyway. And yeah, I don't say this often about message boards because I love JC and I love Wes and all the guys from Gamecock Central and Big Spur. I don't go on message boards. I avoid them like the plague because there's nothing good there. I understand the passion, right? It's a rallying place for folks who are overflowing with passion, and that's great. But I don't go there. I mean, it's in many ways you can get lost in some rabbit hole on message boards, and so I avoid them. I've always avoided them.
Yeah, I check them periodically.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually, there's also you also actually see a lot of interesting stuff that pops up in there. As for people's opinions, could care less. Yeah, mm-hmm. It's interesting to see it. It's kind of laughable at times, but it's just not reality. It's just not. It seems like there's this overwhelming majority of people who hate this and hate that and can't wait to do this and the other. But the reality of it is, there's like 20 of them amongst a fan base of 100,000 or more, and it just looks larger than it really is. But at the end of the day, I did see something here a minute ago, and I wanted to go back to the Share Healthcare chat lines and find this. Ryan, Happy New Year, brother. The value of a bowl to a team and fan base has everything to do with the expectations that were there before the season started and what the expectations morphed into. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, speaking specifically about South Carolina, which we're going to talk a lot about this game in a minute with Wes Mitchell. The Virginia game up there in the Belk Bowl a few years ago, Carolina, if you remember the season, Gamecocks won 9 games. in 2017, the second year under Coach Muschamp. And a lot of the fan base expected to see that team take another step in the right direction, but they ended up in Charlotte and weren't really excited to be there. At least a lot of the team wasn't, it seemed. Well, shoot, I was on the first row behind the bench. I know who was and wasn't excited to be there. We could see them. Mm-hmm. And it sucked the air out of the building. Virginia was excited to be there, and they beat the crap out of the Gamecocks. And then you flip the script to this year, something that you said before we even went off the air a couple of weeks ago or less than that. And, who's going to be excited to be there? How excited will North Carolina be to be there? They certainly had players that were ready to go. There's no doubt about that. But overall, the Gamecocks roster was fired up for this. And Shane Beamer and his staff, they had them energized and ready. And again, we're going to talk about a lot of that in just a minute. Same game, same place, basically 3 years apart, totally different outcomes. And it should squash anything that's been said about Charlotte by people in this fan base. For Carolina typically wins in Charlotte. For anybody that needs a reminder, they did it in 2011 against East Carolina. They did it in 2015 against North Carolina. They did it in 2017 against NC State, and they just did it again this year. They had a rough stretch at the end of 2018 and the start of 2019 when they just weren't very good, where they lost a couple of games. That the way that they play in that stadium has nothing to do with that stadium. It has everything to do with the actual football team that plays the game.
It falls right in line. The Virginia story from a couple years ago with what happened in Charlotte this year. I'll use Auburn as another example. Like I hit a rough stretch towards the end, then had a really good day yesterday. Early part of bowl season when it really was, okay, which team's going to be more motivated? That was a lot of success on mybookie.ag. Shout out to those guys. One of which was Houston. Right. The perception is, wait a second, Houston's going to Birmingham. Auburn's going to pack that place. I'm sitting back thinking Auburn wants nothing to do with this. Zero. There's nothing to do with this game. Just one example in there that's right in line with Virginia in Charlotte and then the Gamecocks and North Carolina back in Charlotte. It's been true in a lot of these bowl games.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. We're going to talk much more about the game that happened in Charlotte. South Carolina, Gamecocks, the real Carolina now, or at least this year, beating North Carolina 38-21. Wes Mitchell is going to join us. What will that lead to in the offseason? For anybody that missed it about an hour and a half ago, Gamecock Central released an exclusive interview with Spencer Rattler. Certainly going to talk to him about that. We got Gene Sapakoff ahead. We'll get into that. Antonio Brown, that was a really odd scene yesterday in the Bucs game. He is no longer a Buck, of course. We got some hoop stuff to get to as college basketball cranks up here to start the new year. What lies ahead for South Carolina and Clemson? Probably the only two teams in the state that can get in at large at this point in time without having to win their conference championships and much more. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 12:32 Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. StokesVW.com for your new year ride. How about that? Wes Mitchell joining us here with Gamecock Central. It is a new year, another year for your team up there. It feels like, let's see, what year is this for Gamecock Central? 23? 24?
Yeah. It started in 1998. So, yeah.
2024. Yeah. Getting old, Wes. You're getting old. You look every day of every minute of 24 years old. I'm just kidding.
It's a compliment.
Yeah,
I've been getting carded recently at the grocery store, which is great. So take that as a compliment.
For what? For your beer?
Yeah, I don't know why. They've seen me like every day, but all of a sudden I'm getting carded again. It's like, great. Appreciate you.
Hey, man. It's a new year. It's maybe that was the New Year's resolution of the Harris Teeter to card everybody over 30. I don't
10.
know. Yeah, I don't know. All right, Wes, welcome, man. We're going to get to a bunch of Gamecock stuff in a minute, but Happy New Year. And about an hour and a half ago, Gamecock Central released an interview with Spencer Rattler. Certainly encourage everybody to go. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. I will after the show is over. So don't want to give a bunch of ways. We want everybody to go watch it, but kind of summarize what that was like for you talking with the Gamecock's future quarterback.
Yeah, it was cool, man. I mean, he said all the right things. I think this is a situation where is coming in with the right attitude, and I was very, very impressed with Spencer Rattler. I mean, I think there is from some people maybe an impression that Spencer Rattler is one thing, but then really just working with him as we were setting that whole deal up, and then of course, the actual interview itself. I'm impressed, man. He's got the right attitude coming in. Obviously he's got all the physical tools that scouts look for, and that he was the number 1 quarterback in his class for a reason. So physically it's all there. And I think he's very motivated to go out and prove that he's a first round draft pick, at quarterback. We did the interview actually late last week, and he had been up in Minnesota, working with a private quarterback trainer up there. So he's been putting in a lot of work, very hardworking kid. And I think he'll actually come in and fit right in at South Carolina.
Again, don't want to give too much away here because we certainly want people to go watch the interview through the Garnet Trust. with Gamecock Central. Was this interview done after the bowl game or before?
It was done right after the bowl game. So
Okay.
it was done on actually Friday afternoon. So
Okay.
it's a couple of days old, basically.
So there's some reaction in there by Rattler to his future teammates and their victory.
Yep, there is, and you can tell he likes Jaheim Bell a lot. You know, he was showing Jaheim some love on Twitter, and you know, he kind of had this big grin on his face when he was talking about Jaheim Bell. So I think he saw the same things we all saw in number 0 on Thursday with the big game he had. And Rattler's actually already reached out to several guys on the team right now and has kind of spent some time trying to go ahead and reach out, say hello, and, you know, preliminary type stuff, but has gone through that effort to start to introduce himself to his teammates.
Well, one of those teammates is DeCarrion Joyner. And I don't know if there are enough good words in the world to use about this young man. Regardless of his performance last week, he's an outstanding human being. And he showed everybody what he is all about, why he was recruited so heavily and so highly rated as a player. And they plug him in. Coach Beamer jokes after the game, Wes, you know, sorry to punk all of y'all, but dude hadn't worked at wide receiver except for the 20 minutes that you media boys were allowed to come watch us. He's been out there at quarterback for about a month. I don't know what the future is going to hold for him, Wes. It certainly appears he probably should be playing quarterback, but I mean, you're bringing in Spencer Rattler. It's going to probably be pretty hard to unseat him. Luke Doty will be back and all that. But you summarized what you saw out of DeCarrion Joyner and what this could potentially mean for his future in a Gamecock uniform. Yeah,
you know, I think you're right. That the path to playing quarterback at South Carolina right now is going to be very, very, very difficult, I think. So, you know, what that means for Joyner's future, you know, I won't speculate, but I think the thing for me was best game plan we've seen all year. You know, we posted a note on the message board, like literally right at kickoff, like, hey, don't be surprised when you see a ton of DeCarrion Joyner today. And, you know, this is something that they had worked on, like Beamer said, because North Carolina has struggled against quarterbacks that can extend plays and that can make plays with their feet. And it was an added dynamic, you know, that took advantage of a North Carolina defense that has struggled at times this year. I think to see Joyner go out and make the plays, though, was just really fun. And you could tell the offense was having fun. The offensive line played extremely well. That's something, you know, none of this other stuff probably clicks or works if not for the O-line and sort of the base plays, the plays that have been in the offense all year long. You know, those plays were working as well. So it allowed South Carolina to really, I thought, call a pretty good game as far as having some complementary plays, doing some things that Joyner looked extremely comfortable doing in the passing game, using his feet, getting the ball out to Juju McDowell in space, then using that very same concept to sort of fake that you're going to flip the ball out to Juju in space and hit the ball, you know, down the field. So I thought it was really fun. You know, it worked out very well in that they were able to keep running the football. They maintained a lead throughout the game, and it really just I thought it was about playing to Joyner's strengths. You know, so I think you got to give a lot of credit to the staff on that side of the ball for that. And then obviously to Joyner for executing.
Wes Mitchell, 12:39 on this Monday afternoon. An outstanding performance, an MVP performance for DeCarrion Joyner up there in Charlotte. You know, what's best for him? I mean, Wes, you saw him as a high school quarterback. We've seen him now in the most extensive action of his career as a quarterback. No incomplete passes. This is an FYI. Came in the game a couple of years ago and helped South Carolina win over in Athens against the Georgia Bulldogs. But we've also seen this transition to wide receiver. He struggled at times. For what reasons, you know, I don't know. but he did have some struggles here and there. He also had some wonderful plays. He's a hell of an athlete. I mean, what is best for Dakereon Joyner? Is it even best for Dakereon Joyner to stay and play at South Carolina?
I think what's best for Dakereon Joyner is going to be whatever makes him most happy. Is it playing? I think at South Carolina he would be playing wide receiver and then probably, getting some looks at quarterback from time to time. Now, here's the thing: if you're going to sort of do this Wildcat thing like they did for most of this year, as we saw on Thursday, you have to let him also throw the football. You can't put him in a box, which I feel like is what they did for most of the year. And teams never respected the throw when he was in the game. So yeah. I think if you're going to, if he comes back, if he wants to be in a similar role, but an expanded role, then I think it's going to be at wide receiver, with some quarterback stuff mixed in. But it can't be like this year where you just put him in and you just run the football when he's in there. The teams have to respect the verticality of the throwing game in order for the Wildcat stuff to work. Now does Joyner? I don't know. Does Joyner look at, well, hey, do I want to go play full-time quarterback somewhere? I don't know, but obviously, you would imagine that would be an option for him.
Absolutely. I mean, he was just outstanding last Thursday against the Tar Heels West. We'll see what comes from that. There were so many outstanding performances in the game. We'll get to Jaheim Bell here in just a moment. It looks like he's probably going to end up being a permanent wide receiver for the Gamecocks. He should be. But we got to talk about Kevin Harris. I mean, this cat, 31 carries for, 100 and almost 180 yards or so. He's now off to the NFL. He appeared healthy. He was running like the Kevin Harris that we really learned about a couple of years ago and certainly all through the 2020 season. It's going to be a void not having him and Zaquandre White there in the future. But, Wes, he was special. Clearly that was the game plan. Let's give him the football and let him run, and they did. And now I think this cat is going to play in the NFL for a while. He's got the makeup to be an NFL running back, but he's been a special one for the Gamecocks last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I thought he looked like the Kevin Harris from last year. He looked like 2020 Kevin Harris to me, and he just was able to impose his will on North Carolina's defense. I thought he got better as the game went on. I thought he was able to he was grinding out yardage, which is something that I feel like we haven't seen a ton of from this offense this year. And again, credit goes back to that offensive line as well. They were creating room, creating holes. Chris and I talked before the game. We were like, there's a narrative that an SEC team should be more physical than an ACC team. And when South Carolina has been in these games, it hasn't always actually played out like that in reality. So, our question was, can South Carolina impose their will, be the most physical team, and look like what the narrative is supposed to be, that an SEC team can just lean on an ACC team and sort of impose their will. And that's exactly what they did. And I thought Kevin Harris was the perfect guy to sort of be the workhorse involved in that. And you could just tell as the game went on, every time North Carolina made a little run, South Carolina had an answer. And I think a big part of that was because the running game was working. It kept pressure off of Joyner. It kept pressure off the receivers. And the fact that you have 2nd and 2, you have 2nd and 3, this game just played out very differently. Look at the game South Carolina has struggled offensively, Clemson, Texas A&M, games like that. It's because, you run the ball on first down and then you're in 2nd and 10, you're in 2nd and 11. Yeah. It's entirely different when you're in 2nd and 3. And for most of the game, it seemed like South Carolina was getting positive yardage in the running game. And sometimes even more than just positive yardage. Sometimes it was explosive plays.
And Jaheim Bell had 2 of those early in the game. He took the top off the defense once and then cut across the field on the second one, and he was gone. Wes, that's what we've learned about Jaheim Bell. We haven't maybe seen that as much throughout the season because of lack of offense for the Gamecocks in its entirety. But this dude has always had ability. You saw him get a couple of carries as well at running back the other day. I mean, they were incredibly creative against North Carolina, and it's hard to imagine this offense not having a heavy, very heavy influence. You already mentioned Rattler and reaching out to Bell and talking about him in your interview with on Gamecock Central. This guy is going to heavily influence the offense next year. He's got ability from all over the place. He can run, he can catch, he can do it all. He can get open. So when you look at the future, Jaheim Bell, Marshawn Lloyd, Josh Vann appears to be coming back. You're going to add Austin Stogner. I mean, there are some elite pieces. Juju McDowell, and then you got a guy named Spencer Rattler who's more than likely going to be the starting quarterback. Wes, it's hard to not be excited about that.
Yeah, I think they've got to add another running back. I think they've got to add another receiver. But there are definitely some weapons that by the end of the year, with the totality of everything we saw this year, I think Jaheim Bell was South Carolina's best offensive player. And, I think there were times probably where probably towards the end of the year, you would have made the case that Quandre White was South Carolina's best offensive player. But sure, with the entire year now to look at and what Bell did in the bowl game and White not playing in the bowl game, I think there's a strong argument for Bell as the offensive MVP of this team. I don't think you lock him in to necessarily, this guy's just a wide receiver. This guy's just a tight end. This guy's, Jaheim Bell could be an SEC starting running back. And I firmly believe that. So I think, you continue to move this guy around. I love how they used him, on Thursday. For most of the year, they have made efforts to get this guy the football. And, he can do so much when you can move him around. You can motion him. And sort of do that little, I think they call it like an insert block where you motion him across, but then you snap the ball basically with he's like an H-back and you run inside zone off of that. And like you said, they were handing him the football in the backfield. I mean, the kid literally, ball skills down the field. You don't see guys that big that have ball skills to where they're catching the football 50 yards downfield. So I'm beyond impressed with Jaheim Bell, and he's gotten better. He's gotten better as the year has progressed as well.
Yeah, a lot of them have. A lot of the players. How about this? What about DeCarrion Joyner as a running back? Would he be a fit there?
Well, I think you want some more size at that position. Of the guys not playing running back on the team right now, Jaheim Bell is the guy that I would say, let's give this guy 10 carries a game and see what happens. Like I truly believe Jaheim Bell could because you don't right now. You have what? Juju, you have Marshawn, you have Rashad Amos.
Yeah,
you don't really have that bigger like guy that can do what Kevin Harris did. Is I think what you're missing right now as far as the running backs go.
Well, they're certainly more than likely going to sign a running back, whether it's a transfer guy or a high school kid, maybe two. Who knows what that looks like? We certainly are not. This roster is nowhere near complete, as we know. Wes, you got another signing date coming up. You've got transfers. You got all kinds of stuff happening. So we'll see what it all looks like in the next few months. But how about an evaluation period for what this win actually means? I mean, if we go back 3 years, all right, that was the last time they were in a bowl game, same place, up there in Charlotte in the Belk Bowl against Virginia, and they got beat 28-0, and everybody was down in the dumps. At least the fan base was leading into the 2019 season. They go back up there, they lose again. The whole year just kind of goes downhill. Even after a win against Georgia, we all know what happened last year. And then this year, Shane Beamer and this football team not projected to win basically more than 4. They win 7, one of those, of course, being the bowl win. And it was a dominating performance. You've got the transfer portal. So you've got Rattler, you've got Stogner. Who knows what else is on the horizon? I mean, there's just a lot of energy. But pairing the off-field energy with what happened on the field, what do you think that means as this program moves forward over the next few months? How much can it help as they try to continue to rebuild the program?
I think the fan base is in an outstanding spot right now. And, there was a time, let's be honest, sort of towards the middle of the year, fans are starting to get restless a little bit. And some of the negativity was creeping in, and kind of that honeymoon period ended. And, for so long during last offseason, the fans were really excited. They were in a great place, and there was excitement, and they were sort of taking a positive approach with everything. Now, you face a little bit of adversity during the season, but you finish the season on a high note. Like you said, bringing in Spencer Rattler, there was going to be some excitement for the spring. There was going to be some excitement for the season, regardless of if South Carolina won that game. But to get the win on top of it, to beat a team like North Carolina, which I've said it so many times now, South Carolina's got to be able to go into the state of North Carolina and sign players if they're going to get this thing to where they want it to be. That every class, the blueprint has to contain a couple of guys from that state, if not more. And, Mac Brown's done such a fantastic job of keeping other programs from coming into that state and signing guys. So for South Carolina, you have something to point to now. You have it really, I would say almost a dominant, like South Carolina controlled the game throughout. So South Carolina wins that game, neutral site in the state of North Carolina. That's a lot you can point to in recruiting as well. And, for the offense to finish the year on a high note as well. We do have to remember this is a North Carolina defense that has struggled. So it's always about matchups. It's always, we always get caught up in, I feel like the team that we cover, the team that we watch, why is this result like this? Why are they up or down? Well, you're playing another team. That other team has something to do with it as well. But still, I didn't know that this offense, even with North Carolina's struggles, could go out and score as many points as they did. And they went out. They had a great game plan. They executed it, and they did it. So you got to give them credit as far as that goes.
You said you put something up on Gamecock Central right before the game started, kind of keep an eye out for Joyner. He might be somewhat featured. I'm paraphrasing what you said there to some degree. How much inkling of the game plan did you guys have? Who put that plan together? Obviously, where I'm going with this. Who put that thing together? How are we, and where are we in terms of evaluating the offense and the staff?
Yeah, as far as I know, guys, it was the same structure staffing wise as it has been all year. I think we've all been, quite critical, I guess is probably the word, of the offense and some of the offensive game plans and play calling and all that. But give credit where it's due. I've heard nothing that's led me to believe it was anything but the same crew. Satterfield running it with other guys involved, of course, and we had been told, I would say maybe kind of right off the bat when they started practicing again, like, wow, Joyner has been at quarterback a lot, and we were told it's not Wildcat, like he's actually playing quarterback, like he's throwing the football. But, that is the type thing, frankly, that's the type thing you start spraying that on the internet, 2 weeks before kickoff, and you're going to tick off the wrong people. So, we're obviously very careful about that stuff. And, some people say, well, you should report what you know, but you're not going to know much for very long if you start putting out game plan secrets. So, but that is, like Beamer said, that was something they had. It wasn't like they put it in 2 days before the game. They had really been working on it and trying to build up Joyner's confidence. And I think it was just a matter of, look, Zeb Nolan, credit to that guy. He's stepped in and done everything that's asked of him. But they really needed a guy who could move around and provide some athleticism to the quarterback position. And obviously Joyner was able to do that.
Well, how do you think we'll view this season the further down the road we get from it? I mean, would you kind of summarize what we saw this year? I mean, Wes, you made a great point. Yeah, okay, North Carolina's defense has struggled. Well, last I checked, back on October 16th, the Gamecocks had to come from behind to beat lowly Vanderbilt. So obviously, they improved as well. But they had a former GA as a starting quarterback at one point in time who had a couple of wins. DeCarrion Joyner was technically the starter this week or last week, so he's got a win. Luke Doty was hurt all year. He had a couple of wins under his belt, and he was playing injured the whole time. Jason Brown, the transfer from St. Francis, has a couple of wins under his belt. Offensive line largely struggled and needed to improve in certain areas. They did. Kevin Harris was banged up. You had Marshawn Lloyd coming off of injury. On the defensive side of the football, Jalen Foster, a walk-on, turns into an All-American. You get Gerard Green, probably your best linebacker, goes down in the second or third game of the year. Damani Staley comes in, and literally, I don't think he could have done anything more than he did. He played his rear end off the whole year. I mean, there's just so many things. Look at what the secondary did in the game last week. Darius Rush. This is a talented team in certain areas, Wes, but in other areas, it's kind of piecemealed together. Hey, we got to get the most we can get out of these kids, and let's see what happens. And I think largely they did. So how do you think, as the further away we get from the season, when we look back on it, what will we remember most about this year and the job that this staff and that these players did?
Yeah, I think we'll look at it as maybe the building blocks for something more. I think for the most part, this season will be looked back on based on what happens next. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like whenever South Carolina gets a big upset win, what do we always say? Can South Carolina build on it next week? Well, this is kind of in a big picture sense a similar thing to me. If South Carolina goes on to be the program Shane Beamer wants and hopes and sort of strives for it to be, then I think we'll look back to this year and say that was where Beamer sort of started setting the expectation and the foundation of what is expected, at least within the program, as far as how you're expected to compete, what the culture is supposed to be, how you don't give up when there are some bad moments, and all those things are very, very important. I think as far as this offseason, fans are going to look back. I believe fans remember experiences and how they felt in those experiences, and certainly the surprise win over Florida, the big win over Auburn, and then I'm telling you, there were so many happy Gamecocks in Charlotte last week. Just smiles across the board walking out of that stadium. So I think to get a little bit of revenge on North Carolina, for it to be against those guys, in that building that's been so bad to South Carolina, I think fans are just going to remember, man, that this is kind of fun again. A bowl game was fun again. And you know what? I think Carolina came out, guys, and they played extremely well just from start to finish. When was the last time they had a bowl game that they did that? I mean, I'm trying to think, because even the last bowl win would have been that Outback Bowl when Brian McClendon was the interim OC, right? That would have been the last bowl win. Yep. And even that game, South Carolina came out and just looked really bad for the first half, and then made some huge plays. It was a fun game. They made some big plays late, but this was a team that just came out and looked more prepared, executed better, and looked like they wanted to be there.
Yeah, I think it was I probably have to go back as far as January 1st, 2014, the Wisconsin win, maybe down there in the what do they call it? Citrus Bowl or whatever they call it. But pretty good game. I mean, all three of those years they were fairly similar ball games for the most part. But Nebraska and Wisconsin, Gamecocks really kind of dominated. Yeah, we'll have to see, Wes. Final quick one here. I'm not asking you to speculate on coaching changes or anything like that. Beamer was short and sweet on that the other day. But do you at least anticipate some things good, well, not good and bad, but do we anticipate news on coaches maybe over the next month or so? Extensions, new contracts. There's always a guy leaving here and there, even in off-field roles. I mean, I'm sure there will be some type of movement. What do you expect?
Yeah, I think in the next probably 2 weeks or so, this thing will really start to sort out as far as what's going to happen. It certainly feels like, I think at the end of the regular season, most people would have thought, there could be several changes coming. Right now, it doesn't necessarily feel like that's maybe the case, but I think that's something we're all still sort of tracking and trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen. Of course, guys will get, like you said, other opportunities as well that they will have to decide if they're interested in or not. So, yeah, the next couple to few weeks, I would imagine we're going to have a really good feel, because here's the thing, that South Carolina's got a junior day coming up June 15th. So, yeah, the coaches might get to have a week off or something, maybe get a little bit of time off, but for the most part, you're kicking it right back into gear and starting some off-season recruiting.
Certainly going to have our eyes on that. Expecting an announcement today from a transfer portal wide receiver, so we'll keep our eyes peeled there. Probably not feeling like it's going to go South Carolina's way at this point in time, but certainly keep our eyes on that. And that's why you should head to Gamecock Central for that and more, like the Spencer Rattler interview, amongst other things. Gamecock's back on the hardwood tomorrow as well. In basketball, Colin Taylor, he'll be all over it. We know that he is, eating dinosaur nuggets and wearing weird ties and things like that. So
I was impressed he got in on the whole waffle spread. I thought was maybe even out of his spectrum. It was wild on his plate.
But waffles are pretty good, man. Like
they are. They are.
I didn't see the picture. Did he venture out with like some toppings, or was it just syrup?
Yeah, I think there was whipped cream and chocolate stuff on there. Now it could have been another picture that I saw, but I'm pretty sure it was his.
Oh. Like Clint says, January. Did I say the wrong month?
I think you said June, but we know what you meant.
Sorry, Clint. January 15th. That's the one that we're in right now. I believe.
It's okay. We got it. We didn't talk at all about Parker White. We're going to mention him here coming up in hour number 2. But he is the career points leader now at South Carolina. We get Gene Sapakoff, so we're certainly going to get into that. The local kid from Wando High School. That's what we call it here in the local.
There you go.
Wes, Happy New Year. Great stuff as always. Have a wonderful week, man. We really appreciate it. And next week we'll get into some recruiting stuff and start moving our way into the off-season topics. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one, okay?
There you go. Yes, sir. Thank you. And I would encourage everybody to go check out that Spencer Rattler interview as well at Gamecock Central. All right, time for a timeout. Hour 1. It's in the books. Antonio Brown, some hoops, Gene Sapakoff, all ahead. And hour 2 right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and 2 others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Roberts, owner of Three Seeds Wellness Studios. And just like being in your favorite ballpark feels like home, our studio feels like home to our clients. We offer over 20 different services to help our guests cultivate, nourish, and grow their bodies and minds. Centrally located in the heart of West Ashley, we offer massages, facials, acupuncture, yoga classes, and everything in between, helping you become that you want to be. A complete list of services are available online, and gift cards are available both online and for curbside pickup. Go to threeseedswellnessstudios.com. Happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, final hour here on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven by Stokes Volkswagen. As we're just getting over the holiday season, hope it was all wonderful for all of you. We're happy to be back here in this new year of 2022. Gene Sapakoff will be our second guest coming up of the show and of the year, Darren. Here on our first day, January the 3rd. Share Healthcare chat lines have been open and happening. And one thing that I didn't see until the Share Healthcare chat lines is that Clemson has another staff loss. Todd Bates, one of their defensive tackles coach, but one of the, if not the ace recruiter still on that staff, has decided to leave for Oklahoma to join Brent Venables in a similar role there. And I wanted to be clear on this. I'm glad Grace Rayner just tweeted it, because I was pretty sure that just about a week or so ago, or about 2 weeks ago, we had the news of the Tigers' new position coaches, contracts, and all that. And back in December, Bates got 2 years added to his contract through 2025. He was also given assistant head coach title, and he received a raise of $200,000 a year. But now he's gone, and so Clemson's going to have to find somebody to fill that role there. Darren, I was all set to get into some hoops and some NFL stuff and things of that nature, but I know that there's fans out there that, because I'm not a Clemson fan, probably don't respect some of what I say. And I'm not saying this because I'm pulling against them or something. Like, I'm saying this, I'm being serious. There's a lot of changes going on at Clemson, and I know that Dabo Swinney is the constant. Nick Saban always has changes at Alabama. He is the constant there every year. They're still there. They're still in the thick of it. Look, they have a chance to win another national championship. But since this run began for Clemson, this is the most adversity that he has faced. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it is absolutely fair for people to question the future of the program as to whether it can be what it has been. I think it's it's very premature and actually very immature for someone to say, oh, they're going to be fine, because we don't know that. I mean, they took a little bit of a step back this year. A lot went into that, injuries, and there were some transfers and things of that nature. But now you're having to rebuild from that already, and now you're having to replace a bunch of coaches. Although Wes Goodman was special in the bowl game and calling the defense. I've always liked Brandon Streeter, and he's now the OC. But there's a lot to replace, and so it'll be interesting to see how this comes together and what that exactly means. But it's hard to just look at it and say, oh, they're going to be just fine. No, they're going to probably need to go prove this again. There's people questioning that.
My assumption is they're going to be just fine. It's fair to question it from the standpoint of, all right, it's an inflection point. What happens here? Because everything we've seen from, let's say, the last 10, 11 years, when a change is necessary, and Gene Sapakoff will echo this again because he's been beating this drum for a couple of weeks with us and in the paper. When a change has been necessary, he's made a move, and he's made the right move. Dabo Swinney being he at this point. So my assumption is that they'll keep this train moving forward. This is what happens in coaching searches. It's just not familiar for Clemson because they've held on to Venables and Elliott for so long, even though their names have been in the mix. How much so is debatable, but in the mix at other places for so many years now. The conversation's been out there, but this is the first time, obviously, that they're having to go through it. And it's fair to say this is a point we'll look back on and say this either adds to the resume of Dabo Swinney that says, when I make a change, I have a proven track record of making the right change and elevating the right guys. And at the time with Venables bringing the right guy in, it's fair to look at it and say, what happened here? My assumption right now, and I think it's equally fair for really anybody to look at Clemson now and say, well, what's going to happen? And it's equally fair to say that as it is to say, probably going to keep rolling along. I think it's right on that tipping point of, okay, which one's going to happen? And you just kind of have to wait and see how it plays out. This happens all the time. It happens at other places. It's just the first time Dabo's really had to go through it.
Yeah.
And he's handling it in a way that he's handled everything to this point, most things to this point. But the clear thing that a lot of folks like to point to is, well, it's so different than what Nick Saban does. And when he loses guys, he pulls from out here and he pulls from over there.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool. Nick Saban's Nick Saban. This is not Nick Saban. So can it work this way? Yeah, he's proven that it can work this way. This is just the biggest test of I guess that resume and what happens moving forward.
Yeah, and you made my point for me. I was going to say the same thing. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if this method works. This largely promote from within method. For Coach Swinney, because Saban goes out and signs the best coaches that are available in college football. Doesn't care if you're an Alabama guy or not. He doesn't care all he cares about is, can you coach football and can you recruit football players? That's what he cares about. But at Clemson, they've been promoting everybody from within. I mean, their athletics director has been promoted from within, and not that. I don't think that's a bad move at all. I've heard some just amazing things about what's going on up there inside the athletics department. So, but it's all TBD as far as what's this going to look like. And I think too that what's important in the conversation is clarifying what is success at Clemson, and everybody's definition of that is going to be a little bit different. I mean, Paul, who's constantly here on in our chat room, his definition of success might be a little bit different from David Shelton's. There's people out there now that think that because what Clemson has accomplished over the last decade, but largely the last 6 or 7 years, that success at Clemson now is winning minimum 11 games in the regular season, which would mean you'd have to win 12, which means you're undefeated if you didn't win 11, and being in the college football playoff. But is that realistic or not? Well, it's been pretty realistic for the last 6 years. Is it moving forward? Are your expectations? Look, I think that we should contend for the ACC every year. And if we don't make the playoff, we should play in a really good bowl game or a New Year's Six game, which would probably mean winning 10 games a year because, well, I don't know, they've done it for 11 straight years. That kind of seems to be the floor at this point in time. So, I mean, But, if you look up in 4 or 5 years, Darren, and you've won 10 games a year for the next 4 or 5 years, but none of those years that got you into the college football playoff, in college football, that is a major success. But in the eyes of some fans who have now seen what it's like to be at the top and feel it, is that success in their eyes? It's all to be determined. I don't know. But, we'll just have to kind of see how it plays. It's just the what I'm getting at here is the line is so thin. Like, you could promote a bunch of coaches and win 10 games every year, and I think that would be an unbelievable achievement for Coach Sweeney. But there's going to be a lot of people going, well, that ain't good enough. We haven't won a national championship in 5 years. What's going on around here? So
it's a near and far term, not reaction would be the wrong word, assessment, though, because in the near term, if we're not approaching Clemson looking at 10 wins and threatening for the playoffs, then clearly that's a step back. Now, if in the next couple of years, if it's still around 10, if they're still floating around the playoff conversation but not winning a national championship, to me that still is absolutely sustaining the success, because how long can you stay there? Alabama is the only thing that is a proven commodity of, I'm going to be on top, I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to stay here. And even when you think you're going to knock me off, I'm going to punch you in the face, and you're going to go rolling right back down that hill, and I'm going to stay on top of this mountain. It's really, really hard in any sport to stay at the always competing for national championship level. So it's not fair. It's easy for me to sit here and say this. It's not fair for any fan base to say, I expect to compete for national championships every single year. Alabama has kind of been afforded that right because that's where they are. But even Clemson now, it's not fair to say, I expect to compete for a national championship every single year. I don't think it's fair for any fan base to really say that. Now, in the conversation for the playoff, give me a chance. Okay. The uppers of the elite, that's fair. But it's one of these things you'll have to continually evaluate of what's satisfactory here. Where is the program in the eyes of its fans, in the eyes of its staff and the players? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, expectations have to be adjusted at some point, because national championship or bust is just not realistic really anywhere.
No, and that'll change for Alabama as well. Might not change till Nick Saban is gone, but it will change. I mean, there's largely most of the people that listen and watch our program remember there's a time when Alabama wasn't any good. I mean, they struggled for a while. I mean, they were basically on parole, but they were on probation, and they just couldn't put it together after Gene Stallings. You had a bunch of different coaches that came in and out of Alabama. Gosh, I was down there in 2004 when the Gamecocks, we went in there and beat them 20-3. Mike Shula was the head coach, and it was such a strange feeling in Tuscaloosa, Darren, because you could feel it when you got to campus that, like, wow, this is Alabama. But it's like they didn't know what to do with themselves, and the fact that they weren't Alabama. They were, the history book said they were, but they weren't at that point in time. And it took Nick Saban getting them back to what they're used to seeing, and now we've seen maybe the greatest stretch run ever in the history of football. But there's going to be a time where they come back down to earth, and as Mike Morgan always says on our show, I don't care if you're Clemson or Alabama or Ohio State or anybody. It doesn't matter. I mean, you cannot expect to win a national championship every year. If you're a fan that expects that, you're crazy. You need to adjust your expectations. It's not fair, and nobody is afforded. That's not a birthright. So we'll see. But yeah, it's an interesting time at Clemson. I really am anxious to see what it looks like, because I'll tell you this: if you look up in next year, and the year after that, the next couple of years, and Clemson's right back in the thick of it, winning a national championship or playing for one, and they literally have done nothing but just promote assistants from within their program. I mean, that would arguably be the greatest coaching job ever. Like, you literally would have built a system that you didn't need to go get anybody else outside of it, except for you train guys, and you just, I mean, they don't do that at Bama. They don't do that at Georgia. They don't do that at Ohio State. They don't do that anywhere in college football. Never really have. Everybody's always going to promote a guy or two, but Clemson's promoting everybody. So, I'll be anxious to see how this works out. Truly, and I still think they're the best team in the ACC, but I'll be anxious to see what it looks like.
They'll be heavily favored to win the ACC next year. I like what I've seen from this Klubnik kid. I'm not, me. I'm not going to sit here and go deep in on some high schooler who's coming in. But they'll be heavily favored to win, and it'll be if they're able to sustain success, however we want to determine that or define that. It's going to be quite the dynamic to compare. Here's how Clemson did it. Here's how Alabama did it, and proof, if in fact they're able to sustain it, that there's more than one way to do this. And it isn't just, all right, if they're able to do this, then everyone's sitting here saying, well, if you don't do it like Saban did, there's no chance you're going to succeed. Those people are just going to have to go take a back seat, because this will prove there are other ways and maybe open the door for a third, maybe a mix of the two, to be able to sustain success. I can tell you this, if it does succeed, and it's probably already this way, if you want to get into coaching, it's another pipeline of a reason to go to Clemson to play football, right? Mm-hmm. Because then I'm in the door. Look, CJ Spiller is an example. I don't know if it was always in his dream to coach, but here's a good example. All right, this is now, let's look 10 years down the road, and they've sustained success. Again, whatever that means. Recruiting-wise, that's another pitch. Hey, man, look, come on here, play. You're going to play for national championships. Also, when you're done playing, if you want to pursue coaching, look what we've done for our ex-players that just stay in the system and pursue coaching. So, there are a lot of positives that can come out of it.
Yeah, they just promoted a couple of offensive linemen to their names have escaped me now for whatever reason over the last few days as well. So, Coach Sweeney is doing a lot of that, and we'll see what it looks like. But certainly, Todd Bates leaving, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. He's a great football coach. He's a great recruiter, and they got another change on the horizon for the Tigers. By the way, I mentioned that tomorrow LSU, Thomas Austin, thank you, Clint, that LSU and Kansas State will play. That's not the only game being played this week. National championship is next week. Remember, it's Monday. In Frisco, Texas, the FCS National Championship. I'm losing my mind. We were off for like 12 days. So just forgive me here. Montana State, North Dakota State at noon on ESPN2. That should be a really good game, by the way. Montana State, the 8 seed nationally. North Dakota State was the 2nd seed nationally, and North Dakota State knocked off both East Tennessee State, ETSU, and James Madison to get to the national championship game. So certainly looking forward to that. Bowl standings as well, 4-2 for the Big 12, 6-4 for the Big 10. The SEC is in at 5-6. LSU, they're going to win one more.
Yeah, they are.
Both teams are in the national championship.
Lose one more also, by the way.
Yeah. So there's going to be another loss, and there's going to be another win. Basically, what that means is if LSU wins tomorrow, the SEC will be at 500 for bowl season. If LSU loses, they will be under 500 for bowl season. The ACC checks in at 2-4, and the Pac-12, 0-5. No wins for the Pac-12 this bowl season, Darren. That was amazing.
The bigger, oddly enough, one of the biggest surprises of the Pac-12 not winning one was Washington State, to me, losing to Central Michigan. As much as they rallied around Rolovich and then rallied around his name escapes me, the interim who was then elevated. That was I was thinking that was one I missed. Motivation, going back to what I was talking about last hour, there was absolute motivation there, but they did not play well. I take zero in conference bowl records. Absolutely not. Because each game has to be evaluated on its own, completely separately. It does not say that the Pac-12 was the worst conference in football this year. It does not say that the Big Ten, which got off to a great start, or the SEC was the best conference in football this year. Each game absolutely stands on its own. This is not like an indictment or a hyping up of any conference in the bowl season. I've said that for years.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, we hit on a lot of this at the top of the show. If you have opt-outs and you have teams that just aren't motivated and things like that, it is not it's not representative of the entire league. A lot of the outcomes just aren't. A lot of these outcomes can be very representative of the league, but many of them across all of college football just are not. So with that being said, that's what it looks like for those that are interested in that. Although I will say, got to give the SEC some props because everybody was beating them. Oh, they're 0-5. Well, guys, just hold on. And since then, they've won a bunch of games. We got college hoops to get to as well, Darren. I know we have Gene coming up here in just a couple of minutes, but for those that are interested in what is coming to the hardwood near you, the Tigers have Virginia again tomorrow. That game against Duke, of course, was postponed back on December the 29th. Clemson comes into the game at 9-4. The Virginia, this is a Q3 opportunity for Clemson. And then NC State is a Q3 opportunity after that as well. And then Notre Dame is a quad 2 opportunity as it stands today. I'm doing that because now that we're in January, you could start to pay a little bit more attention to what is left on these schedules. These are when a lot of this starts to matter in March. Because when you get to March, you look and go, okay, here's where we are. And then it's, are you in? Do you have to win a couple of games in your conference tournament? Do you have to win your conference tournament? Well, that conversation, it started sooner, but now you kind of are who you are through the non-con. Now it's conference season, and you can't change that. So what do you do in your league, and how good is your league? And this is one of those years, Darren, I'll be real interested to see what largely every year, the ACC is such a great league that it's always going to help you. Mm-hmm. How much will wins help you this year? Because not a lot of those teams are doing what they've done. And I saw a tweet yesterday, I think it might have been Jeff Goodman, saying, is North Carolina the second best team in the ACC right now? Like, it's just been strange. So what will the league look like? I mean, Clemson might end up having an argument as one of the top teams in the ACC. We don't know, but they already beat the crap out of Virginia, 67-50. I was really excited to see what they would do against Duke. They didn't get a chance to play them, though. So Q3, Q2 on deck for the Tigers. Clemson, I be honest with you, I think they should be expected to win all these games. I think they're better than all three of those teams.
The challenge, and Brownell talked a little bit about it today, and this is true across college hoops right now. Remember last year, teams coming off of COVID pause, it took a while to get legs back. And this is not anything about the sickness itself and how sick you were. And if you're on pause, you're not practicing. So athlete wise, you're obviously taking a step back. Clemson's now been on a lengthy pause for I don't even know exactly how long it's been. It's going on across the entire landscape of college basketball. How is it going to affect you? And when you're on that pause, how quickly can you bounce back? And what did you learn as coaches and staff from last year that can make you better this year, that can hopefully shorten that window? I bet Frank Martin, if he's asked that question, would have a pretty interesting response, how he's trying to do things a little differently coming off of a pause this year as opposed to last year, because not many teams had as much experience as they had in coming off of that pause and struggling to come off that pause.
Yeah, Gamecocks are in the exact same position that Clemson is this year, but to your point, they've been through this before. What will that mean? I don't know, but I do know this. Auburn is 12-1, and that's who Carolina plays tomorrow night on the SEC Network at 6:30. Tigers are really good. Obviously, this would be a quad 1 win because they're 6th in the net rankings. Mm-hmm. And then after that, talk about opportunity for the Gamecocks program, Darren. You got Auburn, and then you got to go to Vanderbilt. That would be a quad 2 win if you can get it. Then you're staying up there in the Volunteer State, quad 1 win at Tennessee. If you can get that right now, the Vols have a net ranking of 10. You come home for Florida, that would be a quad 2 victory. And then after that, it's Georgia and Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Arkansas would be a quad 2 win. So over the next 5 games, 2 quad 1 opportunities and 3 quad 2 opportunities for Gamecock basketball. It's a big time for South Carolina. Like, you got to win some of those games. They're 9-3, entering the conference slate, and as you mentioned, they've been off since December the 22nd, same time as Clemson, but they've been through this before. Frank Martin did say this morning in meeting with the media, hey, thankful for the SEC in adjusting their COVID precautions and COVID guidelines, because now that it's from 10 days to 5 days and how long you need to sit out if you've been exposed with negative tests, clearly, they get all their players back. Gamecocks expected to be at full strength tomorrow night against Auburn. So that's huge for South Carolina basketball.
And that's one of the things that'll help these teams bounce back faster. I mean, if the guys are vaccinated, sitting for just 5 days, as opposed to lengthier pauses where you can then get back on the floor and get your conditioning right again, that will help them as well. I mean, so the fact that you can get back faster, hey, great, fewer games are going to be canceled. But then also the level of play in the games that aren't canceled should theoretically be better.
Yeah, you get to practice. I mean, that was Frank's thing last year. He's like, we couldn't even practice, guys.
Yeah.
So just pretty crazy stuff. College of Charleston, their next couple of games have been postponed against Northeastern and Hofstra. They're supposed to play Northeastern tonight. They've got COVID protocol within the program. Charleston Southern, as of now, is scheduled to play Gardner Webb tomorrow or Wednesday night. Their game against Toccoa Falls was postponed on Sunday. Coastal Carolina is 9-5. They've got Troy coming up on Thursday. They just beat Emory and Henry. That is where Debbie Antonelli's son Patrick plays. So a neat opportunity for him to play on ESPN Plus.
They were at the Barclays
last
Center.
night.
Emory and Henry went to the Barclays Center in New York for a regular season game. Couple 2 or 3 games before that Coastal game.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Weren't a ton of people there, but it's a heck of an experience. They're D3. They transitioned to D2. I'm not sure if they're officially part of D2 yet, but to go up and play in the Barclays Center, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really neat. Fantastic. Citadel 6-5. They've got Western Carolina coming up on Wednesday, and the Lady Gamecocks, of course, were upset at Missouri on Thursday, December 30th. Gamecock fans can't have anything nice. Win a bowl game, top-ranked basketball program goes on the road and loses, but they bounced back and beat Mississippi State, who took the place of Ole Miss. In last night's game, they've got LSU on the road. That's Kim Mulkey coming up on Thursday at 8 o'clock on the SEC Network Plus. So we'll talk to Keith Alsep about that this week. Yes, didn't get to it. We'll probably get into more of that a little bit this week. But yeah, Shane Beamer certainly called out Dennis Dodd. I'd seen his tweet earlier that morning, and I said something about it too. Not that I have any pull like Shane does. I thought it was a ridiculous tweet for the sport of football itself, not just at South Carolina, but they have talked, and it looks like everything's okay there. But Shane certainly made some waves on social media this weekend by pointing out, pretty.
I'll tell you this. I laughed out loud when the open of the broadcast was Anish Zaraf and Golick Jr.
They're really good, by the way.
Yes. That's besides the point. The main selling point of when you open a broadcast, this is why you're going to watch this game. Normally, you're going to hype the game. You're going to hype an aspect of the game. Sometimes you're hyping players. They hyped Mayo. I'm like, that's really where we are here. We're most excited about this game for Mayo because of how it took off on social media. Dennis Dodd wasn't wrong per se. I don't know if I'd have tweeted it the way he did, and neither was Beamer. Because I thought the same thing. Like, that's kind of ridiculous. It's a football game first, but hey, it's also entertainment.
Yeah, I thought they were what happened was the Mayo guys did a hell of a job marketing their brand, and it took off like wildfire. That's what happened. So I thought it was a great tie-in, and Dennis, I didn't like the tweet either. It was tasteless, but that's neither here nor there. It was tasteless, unlike Duke's mayonnaise, which Shane Beamer had a lot of because it was all dumped on him after he got hit in the head. What the hell happened there? All right, 133. Quick timeout. Gene Sapakoff up next right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesbw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need need the perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
All right, guys and gals, we all know it's the holiday season and you've opened up your playbook for gift giving. Don't dig too deep because I have the perfect stocking stuffer for your favorite teammate. Gift cards and baskets from 3 Seeds Wellness Studios in West Ashland. Luckily, my wife doesn't listen to our show or she would know what Santa's delivering from the North Pole. Check out 3seedswellnessstudios.com for gift cards and their retail store and have their elves stuff a gift basket full of holiday magic. 3 Seeds Wellness Studios, 3seedswellnessstudios.com to score this holiday season.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and loud.
You're welcome, Patrick. All right, 1:37. Happy New Year. Monday afternoon, January the 3rd. Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier joins us as he always does on Mondays, except for last Monday because we were off. But Happy New Year, my friend. How are you?
Happy 2022, guys. It's just such a great year 3 days in so far.
Yeah, we're rolling, right? We're off to a great start.
So, Gene.
Yeah, a little breezy here. Not that great on the ninth green here at Patriots Point, where I can't get a tee shot to go anywhere near the hole, but you know.
Yeah, but that's not because of the wind.
You're right.
Gene, out of curiosity, now that we flipped the calendar into 2022, how long have you been a reporter and how long have you been at the Post and Courier?
Pretty long, both of those. You know, I've been a reporter since. Okay, let's go backwards with that question. I've been at the Post and Courier since 1986, January of 86. Wow. But I've been a reporter since my junior year in high school, in which my very first column was demanding that our high school, for the high school newspaper, fire its basketball coach. Oh. And I just thought that's what you did when you were a columnist. And because I'd written some very soft pieces before, my journalism instructor didn't even edit the piece. It gets into the paper. The principal sees it, threatens to fire the teacher. Ooh. And because, you know, and then, of course, I got the basketball coach for AP history the next year. And let's just say I didn't get the grade I deserved.
So Gamecock fans think you hate them. Clemson fans think you hate them. And you hate your own high school, too. That's what their fans think, too.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it.
This guy hates everybody. This guy threw at his own kid in a father-son game. Well, Gene, we're happy to have you for the third year with us here on the JB and Goldwater show. By the way, quick note before I forget this: Des Kitchings, former running backs coach at Carolina, formerly at NC State, and now formerly of the Atlanta Falcons. He is leaving the Falcons for Charlottesville, Virginia. He'll be the offensive coordinator up there for Tony Elliott. All right, Gene, let's talk about the bowl games. How about the state of South Carolina? 4-0 from the teams participating in bowl games within our borders. It's a pretty nice achievement.
It really is. And each one of those games had its own beautiful story. I mean, Coastal Carolina, first bowl win in school history. People thought that the Chanticleers were not going to be able to top last year, and they get 11 wins again, but this time with a bowl victory. And SC State, wow, to win an HBCU national title and not just beat Deion Sanders, who did so much for HBCU football in 2021, but just thrash them on the big stage in Atlanta. Amazing. South Carolina pulls an upset as a double-digit underdog, and such a fun game the way they did that. And Clemson walks off the field in Florida with a 10-win season. That's pretty remarkable from, when they were struggling at 4-3 coming off a 10-point loss at Pittsburgh.
All right, so let's start with South Carolina, but specifically because of Parker White. I mean, there have been a lot of wonderful football players, and we're going to talk about another one of them in just a moment, but a lot of wonderful football players that come out of this area over the years. But this dude is now the all-time points leader, scoring leader at South Carolina. He also tied Colin Mackey's career field goals made record of 72. Gene, there's been some pretty good field goal kickers at the University of South Carolina for those that may have missed the last 15 years plus of their lives, including Ryan Suckup, who's still in the league and seemingly is going to look young and be in the league forever. Elliot Frye, whose record obviously Parker broke, and others. But this dude, walk on from Wando, and had a tough start to his career, kept going out there for 50-yarders, couldn't hit them, eventually got it figured out, and now his name, it's going to be at Williams-Brice Stadium for a long, long time.
And that guy just has, Parker White, just such a nice career arc where it's just better and better. As you said, he gets, first of all, he starts at South Carolina as a regular student for his whole first year, not really sure if he could play football, then goes out, redshirts that first year and starts to kick. And, Will Muschamp, on the one hand, gave him a great opportunity. On the other hand, put him in some tough spots from those long field goals early. But Parker just kept getting better and better. And now, I think he's going to get an NFL shot. Not a drafted player, but he's going to be in somebody's camp. And I would say that he's got a chance. He's kicked so many times for so long at South Carolina, lots of pressure kicks. And I really like his chances to make an NFL team at some point. And what a sense of humor he has to take that Twitter picture that he did with him with the Duke's Mayo Bowl trophy in the shower to try to copy Kobe Bryant's NBA championship picture. Just so cool. And just congrats to Parker White and his whole family.
You mentioned his whole family. His brother Brad was a kicker at Wando, played with Michael Flint, as a matter of fact. This family has been through a lot over the years. Gene, you probably know a lot about those stories. His mom and others have gone through a lot. But, Parker has made them all incredibly proud, not just because he's a wonderful player, but he's a great kid. And I agree with you. I think he's going to have a shot in camp somewhere with the NFL, and I think he'll make a team. DeCarrion Joyner might have a shot in camp eventually in his career as well. Gene, we haven't talked to you. I know you've written about it, but here on our program, just summarize what you saw out of the Fort Dorchester product last Thursday in Charlotte. He's waited a long time, and that interview at the end of it, I think Scott Eisberg actually asked him the question, incredibly emotional. You can tell what that meant to him.
Yeah, you talk about luck being the residue of design here. He really had been through it all around for the Gamecocks, but first of all, he's got 2 more years of eligibility left. But as of right now, he walked off field as the quarterback when they pulled the biggest upset that they've had in the last, several years since the Spurrier era anyway, when they beat Georgia. And MVP of a bowl game in which he was just basically perfect as a quarterback, had not thrown a pass since the Texas A&M game. Not this year's Texas A&M game, not last year's Texas A&M game, the 2019 Texas A&M game. And he goes out there and just torches the Tar Heels. It was a hilariously wonderful, beautiful thing to watch.
And as long as he sticks around at South Carolina, there's a lot of momentum in the program. Gene, not every bowl win translates into a great year the following season. I mean, it certainly, won a bowl game in 13 and 14. 14 was downhill from 13. 15 was way downhill from 14 when they beat Miami. But this feels a little different. I mean, this team was looking for momentum. They hired Shane Beamer. They were off and on throughout the year, and then November hits. They beat Florida. They beat Auburn. Now they did this to North Carolina. I mean, they literally dominated the Tar Heels throughout the whole game. And they've got transfers. I mean, it just seems different. You've been around this program a long time. Kind of walk us through where they are now in the offseason based on where they have been in the last few.
The biggest thing is that quarterback room is in so much better shape than it's been in a while, a long time, again, since the Spurrier era. And you've got Spencer Rattler coming in, and whatever problems he had this 2021 season, he was really good the year before. He's much of an upgrade over whatever they had, and he's capable of being good. I don't know if he's capable of being great, but he's capable of being pretty good, even against SEC competition. They've got the Tanner Bailey kid coming in, who seems like a really good prospect, and now they have the Carry-On Joiner as an option if things get, messed up injury-wise, or if they just want to put him in there as a change-up guy, and he's not just a runner. You've seen that now, and he's got that kind of confidence. Plus, whoever else decides to stick around, and maybe that's Luke Doty or whatever else they have. I think that's the best thing that they have as far as improvement going into 2022. Even though that schedule is going to be pretty tough next year.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Arkansas on the road, I think, in week 2. Georgia State and Sean Elliott, there's a lot of players from the state of South Carolina on that team, including Sean Elliott, head coach. So that's going to be very, very challenging, no doubt. But, Shane, it's interesting, Gene, to kind of summarize year one under Coach Beamer, because, he has really embraced a lot of the outside world in addition to let's just worry about what's inside of our locker room. I mean, he's found a way he never turns down an interview. He's very active on social media. There's a lot of people nationally in college football who have gravitated towards Shane Beamer and have paid attention now to the Gamecocks football program. This whole Mayo Bath thing really took off, and he embraced it. I mean, has he brought cool to Gamecock football, a cool that they haven't had since maybe when Steve Spurrier was winning bowl games there?
Well, I don't know about cool. I would say he has brought fun and enthusiasm, though. And there were 3 really fun aspects to that bowl win. One, you're putting in a quarterback to start the game and play most of the game, who basically is not a throwing quarterback, who threw very effectively, and that was the difference in the game. That's cool. That's fun. Parker White, I mean, he sets the school scoring record, and he's going to go to Hall's Chop House on Elliot Frye's dime, and he takes a picture in the shower with the trophy. That's cool and fun. He's the ultimate team guy, by the way. And I interviewed position players who have lots of respect for Parker White as a leader. You usually don't see that people say that about a special teams player. And then the Mayo Bath, in which poor Shane Beamer almost gets knocked out with the bucket, and takes the bath just as he said he would. So again, that's cool and fun. But the way I think this is going for Shane Beamer is that he is doing what he said. He wants to gradually build this program the right way without shortcuts. Now, I'll tell you what that could mean is you're not going to have, necessarily an 8 or 9 win season next year, or maybe the next year. But I think the consistency is going to be there in a positive way gradually improving.
Best first year by a head coach at South Carolina ever, or no?
I think so. You could really argue for the Brad Scott year when they beat Clemson 33-7 at Clemson and won the first bowl game in school history, a 7-win season, playing only an 11-game regular season schedule. There's that. Spurrier's first year, they don't win the bowl game. They lose a close game to Clemson, but they beat 2 ranked teams in the SEC. Florida and Tennessee. So just handicap for difficulty, not saying how good your team is. That might have been the most impressive thing as far as just not looking at the roster. But you do look at the roster, and what Shane Beamer had to work with this year, I think makes it the best year, because you get 7 wins, a bowl victory, upsets over Auburn, Florida, and North Carolina. All those teams favored by double digits. And that's because your team just isn't very good, and especially your quarterback room just isn't very good, and somehow you get 7 wins out of that team. I think, again, relatively speaking, that was the best first year of any South Carolina football coach ever.
That's amazing. 2 wins from Luke Doty, who was hurt, 4 wins from a grad assistant and an FCS transfer, and 1 win from a guy who hadn't played quarterback full-time since high school and hadn't thrown a pass in 2 years, to carry on Joyner, and they won 7 games. It's just, wow. It's remarkable. All right, up the road, Gene Sapakoff joining us here with the Post and Courier 151 on a Monday afternoon. Clemson is in double digits again, Gene. It's remarkable what Coach Sweeney has done over the last 11 years. 10+ wins, obviously the national championships, but this year just the vibe was different, right? After they lost a couple of games, or 2-2, it's, oh gosh, it's going to be a down year. Well, they went 10-3. What does that tell you about Dabo Sweeney's program with all those injuries, players opting out? They've got a bunch of coaches who've left. We'll talk about more about that in a minute. But so many changes on the roster, and once again they win 10 games. It's crazy what he's doing.
Yeah, the foundation and the culture allowed them to bounce back from the adversity. And the alarming thing wasn't so much, losing to Georgia or losing in double overtime at NC State, or even losing to Pittsburgh, the eventual ACC champion. I think the alarming thing to most veteran Clemson fans was those close wins, barely beating the likes of Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Florida State, that Boston College. Those were really close calls. And it's going to be interesting to see how this thing goes forward. Dabo just being pretty insistent on the developmental program theory of not really going hard into the transfer portal, if he does much at all. So we'll see. And then the quarterback situation, obviously, I think it's going to be Cade Klubnik neck and neck with DJ Uiagalelei in the offseason to see who starts that first game at Georgia Tech.
Gene, someone made an interesting point. I don't know, at some point this weekend or during the week and a half we were off, whether it's Klubnik or Uiagalelei, the battle at Clemson leading into the season should theoretically make Uiagalelei better, because he wasn't exactly pushed this year, because if he was pushed, we'd have seen more of Pumachan or somebody else at some point this year, and that never actually happened. So do you agree with that assessment that whoever ends up as the guy, the first game of the year, whatever that means, the off-season battle between the two inevitably helps?
Absolutely. That's a great point, Darren. I think I totally buy into that. And the other thing is, I think he's going to have a lot more confidence in his receivers based on having to deal with, second and third team guys this year. But when they get the receivers back healthy, including maybe Will Taylor in the slot, and that guy I think can become a game breaker, a baseball, football guy, but I think he's really going to make a huge difference. He might make a difference in baseball too, but he's going to really help them in football. And now you have legit 1-2 punch at running back in Will Shipley and Kobe Pace that, that took about half a season to sort of develop. And so that kind of confidence would really help DJ Uiagalelei or Cade Klubnik, because I think that was part of the problem, that against Georgia, DJU is taking the snaps and saying, hey, Travis Etienne isn't here. Where's Amari Rodgers? Who are these guys? And half second of hesitation was getting him sacked and beat up and throwing incompletion.
By the way, big yo here, because Will Shipley is a lot of fun to watch. I mean, he is some kind of special out there. I mean, it's this dude. They're getting like Georgia up there, where they lost all these running backs, and you think, wow, that room's just taking a hit. He was probably the best one or the most talented one in there from day one. He just had to get things figured out as a freshman. Gene, he's going to be a blast to watch over the next couple of years.
Not only that, as his skill set became apparent on the field as a freshman about halfway through the year, so did his leadership. And I was zooming in on him quite a bit, at the bowl game from the press box under my binoculars. And there was a couple times when offensive linemen would make mistakes and he was in their face. I mean, just, making corrections when that was needed or patting them on the back. I mean, this guy is going to be one of Clemson's great leaders, I think, in the years going forward.
All right, one of the leaders of their coaching staff is moving on. Todd Bates has left to take the co-defensive coordinator position at Oklahoma. So Dabo's got another spot to fill there, Gene. He's been promoting from within for the last few weeks. We'll see if he has a route he can take there or if he needs to hire from outside the program. It's largely speculated, and I don't know that it's finalized yet, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty close, that Robbie Caldwell also is going to move to an off-field role, and then they're going to promote from within there. I think maybe Thomas Austin is now the offensive line coach, former player for the Tigers. So much change in this coaching staff, and to this point, he has stayed within the guys that they have kind of groomed to be on-field coaches. Gene, what do you think about that decision, and how about the news of Todd Bates? He's meant a lot to this program the last few years, but now he's headed to Norman.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that somebody was going to go with Brent Venables. I just wasn't sure which person. And yeah, Dabo announced after the game the official Robbie Caldwell is out. He's going to have a role in high school relations, though still at Clemson. And Thomas Austin, former Clemson offensive lineman and coached Georgia State for a while, is going to take that over. And I mean, I love speculation. It's one of the things that is the keys to what I do. But I've got to say, time's going to tell on this coach thing at Clemson, because this is just unprecedented. And it's just hard to forecast how good these coaches will be. I will say, though, that in the classic Malcolm Gladwell thin slicing analysis, I love Wes Goodwin. I just think this guy's going to be a terrific coach. I think he's probably going to eventually wind up as an NFL defensive coordinator, maybe even a head coach, but I love that guy. Brandon Streeter at offensive coordinator, we'll see. I don't know. I think Tony Elliott's shoes are every bit as big to fill as Brent Venables' are, though.
It's interesting. With Thomas Austin, that's going to be 4 former players at Clemson on the offensive side of the football, coaching them on the field. I've never seen that before, Gene. I've never seen that before in college football. So I don't know if it works or doesn't work. But all I'm saying is I've never seen it.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you what. You make a good point, Jamie, because when Nick Saban and Kirby Smart go looking for coaches, they don't go looking for the best available alum to coach. They go looking usually for the best available coach. I mean, I know there's some exceptions there, including Will Muschamp at Georgia, but this is interesting of what Dabo's trying to do. And if it works, cool. If not, that's going to be something that's going to come back on him. And again, the standard for Clemson isn't to win the ACC championship next year and go to the Orange Bowl. For most teams, that would be great, but their fans really want to be in the playoff.
So well said. We talked a lot about that earlier. I'm just glad to hear that there's somebody else out there that agrees with Darren and I, and his name is Gene Sapakoff. Gene, we've turned the page into hoop season. Baseball is right around the corner. Obviously, the national championship will be played next Monday, so we'll talk to you about that. You're not? Are you covered? Are you going to Indianapolis? They're sending you, aren't they? You're going up there.
As much as I would like to go to Indianapolis, I think I'll just be staying here in the balmier weather. And I've had enough of flying for a while, where I did learn, by the way, guys, that it's okay to take Cheez-Its under your carry-on baggage, but do not try to carry a jar of mayonnaise between the flight, because your bag will be opened and that mayonnaise will be removed.
Oh no, they stole your mayo.
And it's the special bottle too.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a souvenir.
The agony.
Yeah,
I would like to take this opportunity to take a shot at American Airlines, because any chance I get to take a shot at them, I will. But it's not their fault. Although it's their hub in Charlotte, so in that sense, it's still their fault. But it's TSA. But anyway, shot at American Airlines. Don't fly them. There.
Don't fly. Okay.
Well, yeah, and then some TSA agent is coming home and saying, "Hey, honey, guess what I got today? Would you like a jar of Duke's Mayo Bowl mayonnaise with the Tar Heel and Gamecock logos on it?" Yeah, okay.
This is true. I bet you were looking forward to dipping those Cheez-Its in that mayonnaise as well. You'll just have to go buy yourself your own jar.
Yeah, that hurt. That really hurt.
All right, Gene, what's on the desk this week?
2021.
Yeah, that's right. What's on your desk this week? What can we look for in the Post and Courier?
Well, we're going to have Fort Dorchester High School coach Steve LaPrade talking about two of his former guys that have been in the huge spotlight lately. DeCarrion Joyner with the great Duke's Mayo Bowl win, and Robert Quinn setting the Chicago Bears all-time sack leader, and he's on his way to the Pro Bowl. And other than that, we're going to talk to Andy Solomon, the new executive director of the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. I think Andy's just the perfect guy for this job. He's had so many connections to programs all over the state. And I think you're going to see some positive changes in that South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame.
I have heard about some of those. I'm looking forward to that. Spoke with Tony Schufo not too long ago, Gene, and he's I believe the communications director, I think, for the South Carolina Hall of Fame now as well. So I'm with you. I think this state is going to be very happy in the coming months with what they will try to do to get this thing really going. People need to know more about who's in it and what it's all about. So looking forward to that. Gene, we always look forward to speaking with you. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and New Year's, happy holidays and all that stuff. It's 2022, so you've got 12 more months with us, pal.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Right around the corner, baseball, football, and then, baseball, basketball, football. It's 24/7, 365 football here. You know that. So
that's right. The spring is awesome, especially in the South, with baseball, basketball, and football all kind of intertwining. We look forward to those months. Thanks, Gene. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, guys.
Later. There you go. Gene Sapakoff, Post and Courier. We'll talk to him next Monday so we can get his thoughts on the national championship then, because he'll play next Monday. And between now and then, I'm going to learn to talk again. We never even got to the Antonio Brown stuff. The dude just took his jersey off and walked off the field.
He needs help, like real help.
Yeah, dude, he's yeah. He needs help. He doesn't need football. He needs help. He's some kind of something. That's all right. We talked about all the good stuff around here today. Tomorrow we'll get to some of the crazy things, and he'll be in that one. Thanks to Wes and Gene and Darren and all of you. Tomorrow at noon, we return again. Can't wait to see you.